This is Katrina from Katrina K Creations, and today I want to show you how to customize your shoulder slope on your pattern in 7 steps. The tools you're going to need are a tape measure, scissors, a pencil, ruler, and a French curve or curved ruler. Here I have my front pattern piece, and as you can see I have my stitching line marked. For this tutorial I will not be working with the cutting line, I will be working with this stitching line, which is the broken line you see on my pattern. I've marked my stitching line 5/8 of an inch from my cutting line, which is pretty much the standard on commercial patterns. Now, if I were working with the actual pattern on the table, I wouldn't need to get rid of my cutting line, but so that this tutorial will not be confusing, I'm going to get rid of the cutting lines around my shoulder and my armhole. Many of you know what the shoulder slope is, but just in case there are sewers watching that are beginners, I just want to give a brief definition. The shoulder slope is the angle of your shoulder from the base of your neck to your shoulder point. Now, when you purchase a pattern, there's a very good chance that their shoulder slope is not going to match yours. But there's an easy fix, and let me just say that there is more than one way to do this. I'm going to show you how to correct your shoulder slope in 7 easy steps. Step 1. Before you make any changes to your pattern at all, measure your shoulder length and your armhole length on the stitching line. And just write those measurements down somewhere because you're going to refer to them later. Step 2. Mark the new position of your shoulder line. For this example, I'm going to lower the shoulder line. So on my armhole stitching line, I've marked a 1/2 inch. I put a little circle around it so you can actually see it. I'm not changing anything on my neckline. So in step 3, I'm going to draw my new shoulder line from my neckline to the mark I just made. Now I've deleted my original shoulder line, and you can see my new line in the black. Now the slope of my shoulder is the only thing that I want to change on this pattern, which means my neckline stays the same and my armhole length I want to stay the same. But I've just taken 1/2 inch from my armhole length, so I'm going to show you how to fix it so that your armhole length doesn't change. So step 4, right at the side seam, we're going to lower our armhole the same amount we lowered our shoulder line. In step 5, we're simply going to reshape our armhole. I want to blend my new line where I've lowered my armhole in with my original line. Then I'm going to delete the lines that I don't need. So now I have my new armhole. Now remember step 1, we measured our original shoulder length and our original armhole length. Now we need those measurements. We wrote them down. Now we're going to refer to them because in step 6, we want to make sure that our new shoulder line and our new armhole length match the original. My original shoulder line measured about 4 3/4. And this shoulder line measures about 4 3/4. My original armhole length was almost 11.5 inches. My new armhole length is only about 11 inches. So I'm just going to play with this curve a little bit to make it match the original length. I've reshaped my armhole to match my original armhole length, and this is the end result. You see my new shoulder line and my new armhole in black. And now I'm just going to go back and add my seam allowances. And now you can see what the changes look like with my seam allowance. And step 7 is to do the same thing for the back. The same way you change your shoulder slope and your armhole in the front, you want to do the same thing for your back pattern piece. And this gives you an idea of what your pattern piece would look like if you had to raise your shoulder slope. Now when you have a pattern that is a princess seam, in other words it has a center front and a side front, and that princess seam is going right through your armhole, you would lower your shoulder line the same way I showed you on the first pattern. But after you lower your armhole on your side front piece, you would then need to put these two pieces together to reshape your armhole and make sure you have the same length as your original armhole. So I'm going to delete these cutting lines so I can show you what I mean. So in order to look at your armhole as one line, you would simply match your stitching lines on your side front to your center front, and then you could work with your entire armhole. You also may have a pattern where you have a princess seam going through your shoulder line, so you need to transfer your new line to both pieces. So once again, you would have to match your stitching lines on your center front and your side front so that you could work with your shoulder line as a whole. So now you can draw your new shoulder line across both pieces. So now my new shoulder line is marked on both my center front and my side front. And then you would do your armhole the same as we did our first pattern. If you want to see more plus size pattern making tutorials, subscribe to my channel by clicking that bright yellow button because there's more to come. Did you like this video? I hope you did, and you can let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have a question or comment, leave it down below, and thanks for watching.